How are you doing? This Martin from Gardens for Life. As you can see, my arm is a little bit better for my recent injury. I can hold the camera again, but I won't be pulling up nettles using my right arm. But as you can see, these nettles here are definitely ready to spread their seeds, so it's definitely time, it's urgent now to pull those up and get rid of them. Otherwise they will spread all over our garden. We have plenty of them growing here at the edge of our garden. I don't have any gloves on, but I know I'm safe enough to touch the root. And you'll find the longer you go no dig in your garden, the easier it is to pull up the roots, and you can get all of it in one go. The best way you can support the channel is if you give us a quick thumbs up. We'd highly appreciate it. Or you can become a member, a Gardens for Life member. Just go to gardensforlife.ie/members and you can check out all the benefits there. Thanks a million. In areas where we keep nettles permanently as a kind of like a crop, we don't really eat them very often, but we'd like to have them there in case we need them, like for example as an antihistamine. One time I got stung by a wasp and I had a little bit of a reaction, and I just drank some nettle tea and it was fine again after that. So we do keep the nettles in a spot permanently. However, you better cut it back before it goes to seed, so that you get 2 crops of leaves per year, but also, most importantly, they don't spread all over your garden, because I believe they would take over the place if you let them. So the chicken pen is infested with nettles because I haven't been looking after it very much, and the chickens don't eat them. I reckon about half of the chicken pen is just nettles, and the chickens don't go near them, so I better pull them up. We don't actually mind nettles. Nettles are actually a great plant. They make for a really good soup and an antihistamine. You can drink them as a tea as well. The roots have other good medicinal values. Generally speaking, the chickens aren't too happy with them. They don't actually eat them. They don't even go near them, for a good reason, because they're basically very sore to touch. And we are going to pull those up in order to utilize the rest of the area. But we do actually keep nettles in other areas, like at the edges of our garden. We just try not to let them spread too much, especially by seed, because those seeds will actually go flying into our garden beds, and we don't really want a full acre of nettles. You definitely need some really good gloves, as thick gloves as you can find, either rubber coated or you could use leather gloves. Just get a good quality pair, because it's totally worth it. The trouble is with nettles and with anything that has a thorn or a prick, it can go between the seams on a leather glove, and trust me, it definitely can hurt, especially when you are confident that it's not going to hurt you and you're going to be able to grab all of those briars, for example, or the roses even. If you are working on the garden, it's worth having the right kind of equipment, and if you're doing it on a daily basis, definitely buy the best you can afford. So one really important way to deal with nettles, to make it a little bit less painful, to make sure you don't get stung, especially in the arms and into the hands, is to actually flatten them first, just with your feet, just like that. So then you get to the base of them, then you can actually pull them up. Now you could actually fork this a little bit first, so that you get more of the root, but definitely try to pull up as much of the root as you can, so that they come back less strong. All you can do with nettles is keep pulling them. In areas that we don't desire them, like a chicken pen, because that actually stops the chickens from utilizing all of this space here. Oh, there is one chicken over there. How did she get there? She must have found a way. Well, you can see all these nettles here are, generally speaking, stopping the chickens from taking advantage of this area and foraging. What we do is we step sideways, usually from right to left, up to yourself, and we pull them up, and we get access to the roots and the base of the plant. So you can see you don't really get the whole root, but then you try to pull up as much of it as you can. If the ground is compacted, it's going to be hard, but in a no-dig garden, this is not no-dig by the way, but in a no-dig garden, this root would actually come up a hole, like the whole way. This is actually just ground, just regular soil, and we haven't been gardening here at all yet. The chickens are preparing the ground for us though, and we're going to cover it in wood chips eventually. I feel I've got to give you a little bit of a word of warning here, because when you're putting up 1 or 2 stalks of a nettle plant, the other stalks that are attached to the same plant can fire back at you. I'll just show you here. Look, for example, if you pull, let's say if you pull this one, look, like they can sometimes come your way and end up in your face. You don't want that. Be very careful. That's why I always recommend flattening all of the nettles in the perimeter first, and then pulling them up one at a time. Definitely a safer way to do it. Trust me, you don't want to get stung by a nettle in the face. It's definitely painful. Maybe you can even see it here. Whoa. My left arm is going to fall off at some stage. Can't wait to get my right arm reinstated at full strength, probably another month or so, and I'll be able to get a lot more work done around here. That's nearly all of the nettles taken out. There's a few hogweed which need to be taken up too, but I'm going to need a fork for those. As you can see, the chickens are already searching where I was disturbing the soil. This is all part of nature's cycle. Of course, anywhere there's disturbance, there's always opportunity. And they're looking for worms and insects and whatnot. That's what I would call canopy gardening. No space for sunlight to even hit the ground for weeds to start. And if you ever forget your gloves and you see a nettle in the garden and you'd like to remove it before it gets out of hand, well, the best way you can do that is to simply flatten it with your foot, get at the roots below and just pull them up. And in a no-dig bed, it's really easy. Another great use for nettles is actually making a nettle tea or a compost tea, where you simply add nettle leaves or stalks into, or actually entire stalks with the leaves, into a barrel of water, and you simply stir it once a day, I believe, and just keep them in there for at least 3 days, maximum a week I'd say, and it'll smell really bad because it's kind of a fermentation, and then you can filter it and water your plants with it. It's just called compost tea. You can use nettles or comfrey leaves as well, and just that alone makes the nettles really useful. But as I said, we don't want a full acre of them. You can see here we have plenty of them growing here at the edge of our garden, and I wanted to just take a minute to show you what it looks like when you cover them in plastic. Let me see if I can find a good spot here. I'm sure if we take the plastic away, the nettles will actually come back up from this piece of ground here. You can kind of see where they were, but you'll also see the rhizomes or the roots. See how they're definitely growing in under the plastic. But if you want to smother nettles, which are obviously perennial, they must have been here for the last 40 or 50 years, probably, maybe longer. These have been so well established, and if you want to contain them or remove them, you better be prepared to keep the plastic on top of them for at least 6 months to a year in order to eliminate most of it. You can see even if there's a little hole in the plastic, they still find a way through. As you can see, I don't have any gloves on, but I know I'm safe enough to touch the root, which is firmly below the surface. In this case, it's been under the plastic. And you'll find the longer you go no dig in your garden, the easier it is to pull up the roots, and you can get all of it in one go. And you don't necessarily need gloves as long as you don't touch the upper parts. As you can see, it's like little syringes, vicious things. What it took to develop those from an evolutionary standpoint. There you go. Let's put that back. So these nettles here have been cut back, and we're going to just smother them instead of trying to dig up all of the roots. I still think the best way to deal with nettles is actually to either pull up as much of it as you can, including the roots, and then smother them either with cardboard or plastic. You can smother them straight off as well without cutting them back. You can simply cover them and just step on them, and then cover them with plastic for a few months in the middle of the summer, or maybe 6 to 9 months through the winter. And it'll make a big difference. And when you do your no-dig beds, then it's probably best to add a bit of compost, a bit of cardboard before you add your compost layer, and just in order to try and kind of give them an extra bit of smothering, so to speak. And whatever does come up through, eventually after about 6 months to a year of uncovering them, they will come through eventually, but they'll be easier to pull up. That's it for today's video. Please give us a thumbs up if you don't mind. We'd highly appreciate it. And thanks very much for watching.